Welcome back to Mega Man 3, The Infiltration. Fun fact, I believe this is the only time in the series that Mega Man teleports onto a platform instead of solid ground. And actually, if the first thing that we're going to do is climb up, then wouldn't it have been better to land a few stories above this? You have to go through like 7 layers of ceiling. I guess we're not meant to think about it too hard. Oh, who needs ladders when you've got awesome slide jump maneuvers? So, you can play a little game here called Don't Touch Anything That Isn't Green. Now I sort of fail it there, but you know, I could have gone on for a while in the quest to scroll these bees off the screen and not have to deal with them, which I didn't quite manage to do here. Whoops. I guess we'll have to deal with them the hard way. This pause menu is the first to introduce weapon icons, which is nice. You'll also notice that the default weapon is labeled as P for some reason. Usually this is cited as P for Plasma Cannon or P for Player, but I like to think of it as the developer's way of calling it the P Shooter. Wow, this is a lot of power-ups, including 2 E-Tanks. If you're paying really close attention, you might notice that my E-Tank count is going up and down. That's because I'm pressing the shoot button to flip between the 2 pages without scrolling to the next prompt, but the menu doesn't always cooperate, and sometimes I'll hit my E-Tank. And when your health is full, you get no feedback, and you might even think the game's looking out for you, knowing it was an obvious misinput, but nope. It was full of nasty surprises like that. And yes, this was a very short stage, and we're at the boss. In return, this is a very long boss fight. As you can tell, you're actually quite safe here. There's no hitbox until the boss is fully formed. Kind of. We'll get to that. This is the Yellow Devil Mark II, which implies that there was a Yellow Devil Mark I, and you'd be correct, that one appeared in Mega Man 1, the original game. It was a much faster paced boss fight, where you got also a much smaller window to actually shoot at the eye. Now, when you dodge this attack, you're going to want to do it on the left side, because when you do it on the right, well, just as the hitbox came in way later than it seemed like it should last cycle, it comes in way earlier than it should this time, pretty much as soon as the bouncing clay blocks hit the right side of the screen. And that means if you're dodging them on the right, you'll just get hit by this phantom, mysterious force. And that's caused a lot of players to rage at this fight over the years, for very understandable reasons. Well, I guess that wasn't the last time we're bouncing Gemini Laser around to hit a stationary enemy. Now we get to do it again, yay! Epic slide jump maneuvers, do we have them? Oh, yes we do. So Hard Knuckle takes care of these guys in 1 hit, Gemini Laser in 2. Just as things should be. Not sure what was going on with that Wily 1 boss of those turtles. Haha. So you might be asking yourself, hey Fusion, why are you so adamant about not using Spark Shock? You're still relying on Shadow Blade even after all the grief it's caused you? Well, let's play a little game. I want you to picture an enemy that's big and slow, and relatively difficult to take down. One that's invincible while it's blocking your path forward, but on occasion will get out of your way for a split second, making that the perfect time to freeze it in place. An enemy whose attack pattern is perfectly exploitable by all of Spark Shock's strengths, and subject to none of its weaknesses. Get rid of that Hammer Joe first. Oh hey, look at that! This enemy is immune to Spark Shock. Lame. Luckily there are other ways of dealing with it. Firing Hard Knuckle in the air nearly guarantees a kill because it's just so slow. You can also not fight it as usual, even under claustrophobic conditions like we just saw. These rooms are very unique, very glitchy, as non-stationary as anything that isn't solid ground in Mega Man 3 tends to be. And for whatever reason, you can stop yourself from falling into spikes, even when it looks like all is lost. Now, this boss. There's only one way I've found to beat this boss without getting hit. You don't. The theory was, if I beat it fast enough, it'll have very few chances to hit me. Search Snake just obliterates its health bar. But that didn't pan out so well this time. I'd like to point out real quick that these pipes over here, they're actually foreground elements. Mega Man disappears behind them. Strange, it doesn't look like they should be in the foreground, based on this context, but, you know, whatever. So I want to talk about how I'm recording this. I'm playing this on the Wii U Virtual Console, which explains the subdued colors and what is probably very poor resolution scaling. This lets me set one save point as I play, and while that means I can record as many takes as I need, I do want to string together a run, start to finish, that has continuity and extra lives of E-Tanks. That means that on the rare occasion when I actually finish a stage, I have to decide whether I want to move on or commit to re-recording in pursuit of a better take that might not ever happen. Gotta stay on the ladder here to avoid damage. No takebacks either way. Better solutions surely exist, but I can't be bothered. It's taken me long enough to record this run. Ooh, yeah. Oh, you want one? Another one? Yeah, let's go. You're not supposed to be able to slide like that either, but with just the right positioning, and I mean just right, you can. I've also set a save point right here because it's time for boss rematches, which we'll go through at lightning speed, starting with Magnet Man, who fittingly is weak to lightning. Magnet Man has the dubious distinction of having two weaknesses that both tear through his health bar like wet tissue paper. It's a quarter of his life for every hit. But here I'm taking pity on him to demonstrate that if you're on the unfavorable side of Magnet Man, as he does his Magnet Pull attack, you can still pull off that trick to interrupt him. It's a much tighter window to avoid damage, but it's still doable. Now onto Gemini Laser for Needleman, and I have to go to the left to enter this capsule, so notice how I'm still facing left as I enter this room. But apparently Mega Man's supposed to be facing to the right, because that's where the laser comes from. Anyway. Yeah, Gemini Laser is obviously the weapon of choice to use against Needleman here. But Gemini Man, speaking of, Gemini Man is weak to Search Snake because he has Ophidiophobia, presumably. But Gemini Laser? Did we just use this? Yes, in Mega Man 3, every boss is also weak to his own weapon. I call upon the mystic occult forces to make Gemini Man jump at my command. Ow! Karma hits back immediately and I got my face zapped. Actually, he just jumps every time you press the fire button, which of course does nothing for you if you already have Gemini Laser bouncing around the room. Of all the bosses that could have been weak to Magnet Missile, Hardman feels like such a colossal waste. Magnet Missile with its auto-homing capabilities is such an excellent weakness for any boss, but you never have trouble hitting Hardman of all bosses because he's such a big target that only occasionally moves. That doesn't mean Hard Knuckle is a good thing to try to hit him with though, at least not our inferior version. Why does he get such a better weapon than we do? Hard Knuckle is fine against Top Man because you can stand close to him with no danger, and you only have to deliver 4 hits in total. Don't try to use Topspin against him. Just like Doc Crash, he takes 4 damage, or a whole 7 hits, from the weapon that makes you lose your full-body tackle contest if you don't outright win. Next up is Snake Man. His weakness is Needle Cannon. Of course, snakes are very vulnerable to being impaled, so this weapon destroys the snakes if you can hit them with it. This is a bit interesting because your Surge Snake bounces right off of those snakes, not shown here, even though they're visibly bigger. Nothing beats the original, I guess. So, Sparkman's weakness is Shadow Blade. But you should really use Spark Shock, which does the same amount of damage and is infinitely more reliable. I'm going to be displaying that right now. See? Shadow Blade. Shadow Blade! Shadow Blade! Ah, Shadow Blade. But you really should be using Shadow Blade against Shadow Man because anything, and I mean anything, is more reliable than Topspin, the little weapon that couldn't one-hit KO bosses because that would make it overpowered. So the way they hastily programmed it makes you forfeit your perfect run credentials unless you use it to deliver the final blow, which we're about to do right here. Ah! That felt good. So now we have a little alcove where we can relax, take a breather, refill our weapon energy. That capsule up there doesn't actually take you anywhere in particular, it just leads directly to the next stage. And I don't really have an outro prepared, so,